Welcome to the Recommended Daily Value Podcast, your daily dose into the health and wellness world.
Welcome back to the Recommended Daily Value Podcast, where we dive into everything health, fitness, and nutrition related 5 days a week in 5 minutes or less. This podcast is brought to you by Umzu, and I'm your host, Tyler Woodward. Today, we're talking about what I'm calling the non-toxic New Year kitchen edition. So as we talked about in the last few episodes, many of the products that we're using every day contain a lot of toxins that are having detrimental effects on our health. These include things like parabens, phthalates, heavy metals, xenoestrogens, benzophenones, triclosans, alkylphenols, BPA, BPS, the list goes on. And sadly, many of these chemicals occupy nearly every aspect of our lives today, from soaps to pans to whatever else you can imagine. So in honor of the new year and improving our health, I figured it would be useful to give you all some of the principles and products I use in my kitchen and recommend using in yours. First up, we've got cookware. Believe it or not, the materials that make up what you cook with will leach into your foods in small quantities, but over time, this adds up. And it's especially important with the recent popularization of non-stick pans. Non-stick pans are coated with a material known as PTFE, or polytetrafluoroethylene, which is what gives it its non-stick properties. But sadly, the more research that comes out, the more likely it appears as though this chemical is causing a host of health issues, as well as seriously polluting the environment. The non-stick chemical falls under a class of chemicals known as PFAs, aka polyfluoroalkyl substances, but you may know them better as the forever chemicals. The reason they're given this nickname is because they are designed to not break down naturally, and are now being found in rivers, oceans, and even human blood. There's not much research on PFAs to date, but what little there is appears to be very harmful to humans, with PFOAs being listed as quote-unquote possibly carcinogenic to humans, according to the IARC. Additionally, the EPA has determined the minimum levels of PFOAs in the water supply to be less than 0.004 parts per trillion. You do not want these chemicals in your food, I promise you. Some better options include glass cookware, ceramic cookware that's tested for heavy metals, or cast iron. I personally use the Stone Earth Pan by Ozeri, but Extrema is another highly reputable brand. Next up, we've got Tupperware. Please just do yourself a favor and invest in some glass Tupperware, especially if you're going to use the Tupperware to reheat your food. You really do not want plastic leaking into your food. Going along with that theme, I highly recommend eliminating plastics entirely from your kitchen and using either stainless steel or wooden utensils. A less toxic option than plastic utensils is silicone-based materials. But again, I would recommend sticking to metal or wooden utensils. The same thing goes for cutting boards, although it's not likely the biggest concern. I'd still advocate for using a wooden or glass cutting board over silicone or plastic. And even straws, switching to a metal or glass straw will not only significantly reduce the amount of waste going to our landfills, but may contribute to better health compared to plastic alternatives. Up next, we've got cleaning supplies, which includes dish soap, detergents, counter cleaners, etc. Sadly, these are another area where toxic chemicals have infiltrated our kitchen. Chemicals such as triclosans, phthalates, VOCs, formaldehyde, synthetic fragrances, all have known endocrine disrupting effects and are commonly found in soaps and detergents. And to truly reclaim our health this year, we should be aiming to minimize our exposure to these chemicals and at minimum support companies that really want to help our health in the long run. Additionally, the plastic derivative used in dishwasher pods may be another mess in and of itself. A couple of brands I recommend for detergents, dish soap, and counter cleaners are Branch Basics, 7th Generation, Molly Suds, Drops, Thrive Market, etc. And there's a lot of other ones if you just search non-toxic detergent, soap, or counter cleaners online. Also, if you don't want to spend the extra money, using any type of vinegar diluted with water generally will be a great solution for any of those. And last but certainly not least, it's getting rid of any remaining plastic in your kitchen, of which two things come to mind. You might hate me for this one, but I think plastic K-cups need to be a thing of the past. Not only are these one-use pods a huge waste, but they're very unlikely to be healthy as your hot coffee goes streaming right through it. While the K-cups do not contain any BPA themselves anymore, they likely contain one of BPA's chemical cousins, like BPS, that probably have the same detrimental health effects that really has not been tested yet. Switching to a reusable metal K-cup is much more environmentally friendly and also likely much less toxic. And if you don't hate me yet, I can almost guarantee you will after this next one, which is plastic wrap. Plastic wrap is probably not a huge deal if you're using it to cover something in the fridge, especially if it's not in contact with your food. But again, it's extremely wasteful and not likely to be beneficial. It's far from a perfect swap, but using glass Tupperware or beeswax wrap can be a much safer and environmentally friendly alternative. Well, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys take this information positively and use it to start making better decisions in your home for the future. This is not meant to scare you into ransacking your entire kitchen, for the record. Just make small incremental changes over time, in my opinion. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button and to share with a friend. And remember, these opinions are my own, based on my own research and experiences, and is not medical advice. Until next time, be good.